Today we're going hardcore editing a photo. Hey guys, welcome to Phlearn. My name is Aaron Nace. You can find me on Twitter at AKNacer. You can also find me here at Phlearn.com 5 days a week. Boom. Count them, baby. Because we make these videos 5 days a week. Today we're editing one of the family members' images. This is Michelle's image. I'm guessing this is your daughter. If not, Michelle, you should return this person immediately because they're too cute. We're going to be doing quite a bit of stuff with this. Michelle submitted this to have this image edited. And if you guys want to do the same, there's a box right up there. It's under Contact Us. You can see Submit an Episode or Suggest an Episode. You guys can actually leave your own images, and we could use your images on Phlearn as well. So we're just going to rock on and do quite a bit with this photo. I think it's going to be great, and I'm going to be silly because it's Friday and I'm about to have an awesome weekend, guys. All right, here we go. These are some of the things Amelia wrote down that we're going to do with these. So things like darken the sky and crop these, and more leaves in the background, and color and dodge and burn, and getting rid of this stuff and blurring. And I think this is great. Usually I suggest to people when they're first starting off an edit to just kind of circle everything. Just take a second and kind of like figure out everything you want to change, and then you can get in there and do it. So you don't like, get to where you're almost done editing and be like, oh, I totally missed all this stuff. You can just like get it all done. So we're going to do all this stuff. All right. Let's start off with some of the leaves and things like that I think could be just taken care of. And I think the whole idea of this photo was to be throwing up leaves, so like we want to keep that part of the photo, but some of the leaves that are in front of the child's face and things like that, we're going to take care of those. So let's go ahead and crop this in first. It's not a horrible crop, but I don't think that we need all that stuff on the left there. All right, there we go. I'm going to crop, and usually I'll tell you what, I'll hit the settings and I'll bring my opacity all the way up. Usually I like to bring my opacity up so I can actually see what it's going to look like. You can choose your whatever crop, I don't know. We'll choose the rule of thirds here. All right. There we go. And crop it in just like that. I think that's great. And we'll hit enter. Perfect. So what we need to take care of are a bunch of these little bits of, leaves over her face. And that's actually not that hard to do. Is this the full-size image, Amelia? It's kind of a small image. Okay, so if you guys are like, I've just zoomed in, and this image is relatively low resolution. So you can still zoom in, but if you do want to, edit something like this, it's actually a lot easier because you don't have to worry about the details because there really aren't any details. So I'll show you how to do something like this. I'm just going to use my brush tool for a lot of it. Brush tool, clone stamp tool, healing brush tool, those all will be good. So let's grab our healing brush tool. I'm on a new layer here, and I've got it sampled as current and below. And I'm just going to take away some of these little guys here. There we go. We'll sample and then paint, sample and paint. Now, I know the whole point of this is to to make it look like leaves are being thrown up in the air. So I'm going to do that. But this leaf looks great. Like that leaf looks great. You can have that effect. You just don't want like leaves all over, the person's face. All right. I'm going to make a new layer and go in here, grab my brush tool, and just choose a regular, nice soft brush. There we go. And I'm going to choose a color here, bring my flow down to about 20%. Choose a color right here and just paint right over here. And whenever I'm doing stuff like this, especially if it's on a relatively low resolution image, you can really get away with a lot of stuff. And you can do a lot more with the brush tool than I think most people would think is comfortable. Like you can do more than just, paint with it. You don't always have to grab your clone stamp tool, the healing brush tool. Like you can take care of that with the brush tool too. All right, and if you're using a Wacom tablet, like I have this Wacom Intuos, this is the Intuos 4, by the way. The Intuos 5 is out, but we have the Intuos 4s at the studio. We'll link to where you can get this below. It makes using these a lot easier. All right, so brushing that area away, we're gonna sample this area and then paint it in. So that's kind of my trick. You just sample here, right next to it, and then paint it in. Sample there, and then paint in. And this is totally, like, if you're curious, it's like, well, is there any skin texture there? No, there's none at all, guys. Like, there's no possible way I'm painting skin texture in with a brush right now. We actually did release a pro tutorial today on an awesome fashion image, and I gave a really great technique on adding back skin texture. So if you guys want to retouch and still have all your skin texture, the pro tutorial is great for that today. And that's half price right now. I'm slinging it. Boom. Bam, at ya. Okay, let's see those and kind of like looking at these before and after. But there'd be no point in me trying to create skin texture here because she doesn't even have any to begin with. Like I'm here 300% zoomed in and we're getting to the pixels. I can't even see this. So it's not even a huge deal. All right, now for something like this area right there on the side, sorry, what I'm going to do, create a new layer. I'm going to just use a marquee selection tool. There we go. Create an elliptical marquee and just kind of make a selection that looks, you know, like right about like the edge of her face. And that's just going to restrict where I'm able to paint with my paintbrush. So I'm going to sample in there and paint around. And this way I don't have to worry about creating like a really nice edge with my paintbrush and like trying to, you know, be so good at painting. I just make the edge with a selection, and then, you know, then we have all the way, we just have a new cheek on our person. So it's like, oh, cool, that was a lot easier than I thought it'd be. Great. Now the edge, you can see it's a little harder. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the edge is very hard because we just chose a regular hard edge selection. So if you want to blur this a little bit, you could go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur, and just give the edge a tiny bit of a blur, and that's going to help it blend in. See, it's like 0 blur, and then just hit the up arrow a couple times. There we go, till it starts to blend in with the rest of the image. Perfect. That looks pretty good. Now, if you wanted to make a layer like under that and start, you know, painting away this stuff, like you could even, you know, like you could start painting in here, and because it's under it, like you can go right to the edge. So I'm going to do the same thing, and then we'll be rid of our leaf in like 2 seconds. Perfect. So using a clone stamp tool, like it wouldn't have made any sense to try to use a clone stamp tool because there was no real information there. So we had to kind of create information from scratch here, but you can see it still wasn't that hard, and now we have, you know, no giant leaf in front of her head, which is great. I'm sure she appreciates that. All right. And Michelle, I bet you're watching this and be like, God, that was so easy. That's awesome. And it is easy. Like it's really not that bad. I think once you guys get comfortable like using a brush tool and things like that, it definitely makes things like, it just makes a lot of things a little bit more simple than you'd think they have to be. After all, like the classic painters, like they pretty much just had brushes, right? So it's like, you don't always have to overcomplicate it with all the tools. You can use the brush tool for quite a few things in Photoshop. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we have other notes like maybe filling this area, and that's a total preference thing. Like if we want to fill this area in, what I would do is, again, grab the brush tool, choose a brush that's a little bit larger, paint it in there, and this is gonna look great. There we go. We'll paint it in there, and then I'm gonna paint back the border of my sweater back over top of it, so it looks like the sweater is going over the hair instead of the other way around. Okay, and now if we wanted to, we could even like grab a lighter color in the hair, something like this, and just do a few streaks in there. And this will help it make it look like it's, you know, really hair. All right, and then I'll just grab my eraser tool and erase there. Perfect. So we just extended her hair over on top of, you know, this other over in the area, and it just, you know, it's a preference thing. Like, do you want that sort of thing? Here's turning that off and then turning that back on. So it might help with composition a little bit more. All right, we're looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and group everything that we've done so far. These other leaves, I'm going to leave them where they are. They really don't bother me. Now I'm going to make a new layer on top of everything, and we're just going to grab like a sky, yeah, something like that. You don't want to grab a too dark color. Like if you're going to be adding more detail into a sky, don't grab something that's too dark in color, because if you do, it's not going to be realistic. So you still want to grab a relatively light color. And like, especially like if the sky is really light in color like this, if you grab a dark color, it's just going to, it's not going to look real, because the sky lights the rest of the image. There we go. I'm going to paint that in there, and then I'm going to put a little bit of the sky color right here on our subject in the ground. And we're done. No, we're not done. This looks horrible. What we're going to do now is I'm going to double click on this, and we're going to use something called Blend If. And this is going to make this layer only visible where the underlying layers are lighter, and it's going to make it look like kind of like a light source. It's going to be great. So I would double click on this layer, and here where it says Blend If down at the bottom, you can see this underlying layer. Hold Alt or Option and click there and drag from left to the right. And you can see it's starting to disappear from the darker areas. As I keep going, it's going to keep on doing that and keep on doing that. All right, and eventually it only shows up where the light areas are, which is perfect. Now we're going to lower the opacity a little bit. There we go. And we just added some more color into the sky. Now, if you wanted to put like a layer mask on here, it's a little too visible, like on our subject, so paint it away just a little bit there. But you can definitely add some, you know, some color into your sky as well, so it doesn't look, you know, completely blown out. There we go. And that's, you know, that's a problem everyone's going to have. It's just a, something that happens with cameras in the dynamic range. They're not very good at capturing like a lot of details and shadows and highlights. So oftentimes you're just going to have, some highlights that are blown out. All right, that looks great. On a new layer, I'm going to just get rid of this as well. And I'm using a clone stamp tool for this. And that's going to copy the exact texture and everything right from here. So S for the clone stamp tool, and then Alt or Option to sample, and then you can just paint. That's perfect. Now what I want to do is add some I want to add more leaves to this, kind of out of focus. So we're going to grab a new layer, and I'm going to hit S for the clone stamp tool again, and I'm just going to kind of paint some random shapes here. So this is on one layer, okay? On a new layer, clone stamp, and I'm going to grab some other leaves. Just make sure you're sampling current and below there. All right, another random shape on a new layer. And you're like, what are you doing here? And this is so weird. You'll see in a second. It is totally weird what I'm doing right now, but it'll all make sense in a second. These are gonna look like leaves. So I'm just doing these on a few different layers. And the reason I'm doing them on different layers is because I want to size them and scale them all differently. And I maybe will add some blending modes too. So you can see I'm looking for random shapes. All right, so these are going to be our, let's just group all those and we'll call these leaves. There we go. Oh, and by the way, this is my first time editing this image. So this is what I would normally do if I just opened up an image and I was like, all right, let's start editing. There we go. And what I'm going to do is make this nice and large. I'm going to put a layer mask on there and kind of like layer mask out some areas, making them less visible, some areas more visible. And this is going to make it look like some of these leaves are, maybe I can add a blur to these. Some of these leaves are like relatively close to the camera maybe, and they're, the leaves that she's throwing up in the air, and they're gonna help frame the scene. And let's make them more leaf colored too. So I'm gonna hit Command M for our levels, and let's go to our red channel, just pump up some reds in there, maybe some greens, and pull some yellows in there too. Well, something like that looks pretty good. All right, that's leaf colored. Command M will pull some colors in here too. Let's bring some reds into the leaves and some green. There we go. Wow, we got leaves everywhere. Let's put some in the background there. See, like that looks like a leaf that's out of focus. It's like, what, really? Yeah, it does, right? Like it doesn't really look, let me make this invisible. Like that is real. I didn't add that one and I didn't add this one, but like this thing back there, like that pretty much looks the same. Like it's not really that different. And it's a cool effect that you guys can do. Just like, clone stamp some area that's leaves, put a big blur on it, and then it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's leaf. I believe you. So I've done this with many of my photos, and there we go. I've done this with many of my photos. It just adds like a little bit more atmosphere and texture and things like that to your image. So we've got some leaves, and now we're focused more on our subject, which is also perfect. This blue color I don't like a lot. It's okay, but I think it could be better. I'm gonna hit Command U on that, and then I can actually just change my hue, because skies aren't always blue, right? Sometimes they're a little bit more yellow, sometimes they're a little bit warmer. Let's just say this is gonna be a little bit warm this time, and then I'll warm the entire image up in just a minute. All right, and beneath our sky, let's see, I just wanna paint, I'm gonna grab this color and paint a little bit over here, lightening some of these highlights in this area. And again, this is just with my brush tool, guys, so this is not like, I wouldn't do this in a highly detailed area, like, don't just grab colors and, where you need a lot of texture and everything like that. But some of the shadows were just a little too dark there, so I'm just gonna lighten them up by, picking some colors and lightening them up, just like that. All right, some dodging and burning. I'm gonna leave that one in there. I think that's pretty good. Cool, we're looking pretty great. Great. We're looking great. This is very cool. And now what I'm gonna do here at the end, let's just add a levels adjustment layer, and I'm gonna make it look like it's more of like that kind of fall type of image. So with the levels adjustment layer, you can go over here to your blue channel and pull this guy down over here. It's gonna put some yellows into your highlights. Okay, and then we're gonna pull this guy up. It's gonna put some blues into your shadows, give you like that nice cross-process look. All right, we're gonna do the same with greens and put some magentas in there. All right, and I want some greens to be visible in my image. Aw, it's looking so cute. There we go, and some reds as well. And just some quick colors. This is like, you know, the Instagram trick. It's just like they take a regular picture and then they just throw some yellows on the highlights and some blues on the shadows and sell it for $1 billion. This is what I just did. It's like it takes this image and it's like, wow, it looks so artsy. It's amazing. But it's like, no, it's not any more artsy. It's just, you know, I just changed a couple colors, but it does make it look better. It's amazing how that works, right? Instagram made $1 billion. And that's why it helps with like the blurs. So I'm going to even grab some of these colors and I'm going to blur some of this a little bit more, even on her head. It doesn't matter. Like, this is the look that we're going for. See, like the nice blurred look, just lower the opacity. It's like, wow, it's so like, how did you capture that amazing depth of field? It's awesome. And you're just like, well, I faked it. It's not real in any way. I faked it. I'm going to make her face just a little bit brighter than the rest of the image. So I made a selection around her face, brightened it up. Let's just put a big old Gaussian blur on that image. Sorry, on that layer mask. There we go. And brightening her face up. And then, you know what, maybe just for fun, I'm going to grab a new layer. We'll grab a color here. And I'm going to grab something like a soft light. Paint it down here. I wanted to darken up this a little bit, but it's not darkening as much as I thought it would. Okay, so what we're going to do is hit Command U just like we did earlier, and then I can just go in here and like pull my lightness down. All right, bring a saturation down a bit. And let's bring our opacity down on both of those. So this will just help draw a little bit more attention back to our subject again. All right, and there we have it, guys. That's what I wanted to do with this image, and I think it looks great. So let's look at the before and the after. This is our before, and we can see there's leaves everywhere, especially in her face and everything. It does have a focus, like I'm definitely looking at her face, which is what we want, but it doesn't have anything that makes it look in the magical realm, and now it falls in the magical realm. That's the technical term for it. It's more magical. Touch my lucky charms. They're magically delicious. Anyway, that's Phlearn. That's what we're doing today, guys. I hope you learned a lot from this episode. We have plenty more at Phlearn.com. If you guys have any questions about this or anything else, be sure to contact us and leave a comment in the box below. By the way, we're adding Phlearn to Pinterest. So if you guys have any ideas, or like if you use Pinterest, you can pin it. And I don't know, I'm just getting started on Pinterest and I still don't know why. They just value that $1 billion too. What is it? Phlearn is next. Twitter first, and then comes Instagram, and then Pinterest, and then Phlearn at $1 billion. And when that happens, I'm buying you all popsicles, because I'm just a nice guy. Guys, have an awesome weekend. I'll Phlearn you later.